For the first to fourth tier star domains, the fifth tier sects are practically unreachable. If a disciple from a fifth tier sect were to visit a fourth tier star domain, they would undoubtedly receive a warm welcome from all sides. At this moment, within the fifth tier star domain, the originally peaceful mist sea suddenly erupted with a howling sound, followed by a long rainbow streaking across the sky. Within the rainbow was a dragon-like spirit beast, and atop its head stood a solemn cultivator. Behind this long rainbow, the star mist churned violently, and fierce beasts within it, their eyes filled with panic, scattered in all directions. Soon after, several more rainbows screeched through the mist. It wasn't over yet. Within a mere incense stick's time, no less than dozens of rainbows cut through the star mist at an astonishing speed, racing through the fifth-tier star domain. Within these rainbows were spirit beasts of various appearances, each carrying a cultivator on their back. None of these cultivators were from the fifth-tier star domain. They all hailed from the sixth-tier star domain. Their appearance immediately sent shockwaves through the entire fifth-tier star domain. This wasn't unique to just this area. Across more than 6 parts of the starry sky within the fifth-tier star domain, the same scene was playing out. The cultivators riding on the spirit beasts within the rainbows had expressions that masked their ecstatic joy and excitement beneath a layer of grimness, their eyes brimming with boundless greed. These cultivators from the sixth-tier star domain had one unified goal, a remote continent within the fifth-tier star domain. In the northern part of the wild continent where Wang Lin resided, the ground trembled, and the sound of booming explosions echoed from afar, as though heavy objects were constantly crashing down. The mist surged and advanced forward. Bird-like fierce beasts shrieked and fled through the mist, steering clear from the chaos. On the ground, many other fierce beasts scattered, evidently terrified by the booming sounds in the mist. A moment later, a gigantic figure appeared within the mist, over 100 feet tall. The figure was immensely robust, and as it drew closer, its full form was revealed. A gigantic black ape. Behind the black ape were several fierce beasts resembling bulls, their red eyes wild with frenzy as they pursued relentlessly. The mist swirled around them, and the earth was lifted in thick clouds of dust. Surrounding these bull-like beasts were more than 7 other groups of fierce beasts. They intermingled, forming a long line, resembling a beast tide, all relentlessly chasing after the black ape in a never-ending pursuit. In the sky above, bird-like fierce beasts also joined in, crazed in their pursuit. Anyone who saw this scene would feel their scalp tingle. Even cultivators with great divine abilities would feel their pupils constrict. The number of fierce beasts was overwhelming. Among them, some were clearly fifth-tier beasts, and their divine abilities roared through the air, heading straight for the black ape. However, the black ape was incredibly agile, with a tough and resilient body. Most of the divine abilities and attacks had little effect, aside from the few it dodged. The black ape's feet thundered against the ground as it ran, creating the rumbling sounds. Its speed was astonishing. As it raced forward, fierce winds howled. Ahead of it, there was a mountain ravine. With a forceful stomp of its right foot, the earth seemed to shatter, and the black ape leaped over the ravine, charging toward a distant mountain peak. In just a few breaths, it reached the mountain peak. Above the peak, countless eagle-like fierce beasts were circling. But as soon as they swooped in, they were instantly shattered into blood flowers by the black ape's swinging arms. No beast seemed able to halt the black ape's momentum. It charged up the peak, and at the summit was a nest several dozen feet wide. The black ape approached and struck the nest with its right hand, shattering it with a loud crash. The pieces scattered, revealing a small red herb growing inside. Without pausing, the black ape grabbed a nearby boulder and tore it out of the ground with a loud crack. It howled joyfully, took a large step, and ran off into the distance. Behind it, the eagle-like beast screeched and howled, and 1,000 or more of them went mad, joining the beast tied to chase after the black ape. As the black ape continued to run, it crushed the boulder in its hand, revealing the small red herb. It tossed the herb onto its shoulder, where Wang Lin, seated cross-legged, caught it and stored it in his storage pouch with a glance. A gentle pat on the black ape's body sent it howling in delight, its speed seemingly increasing even further. The ground trembled, and from a distance, the black ape leaped and bounded, sending dust and mist flying. Behind it, the fierce beasts howled, their chase unrelenting. On this primitive continent, it is rare for cultivators to dare provoke fierce beasts in such a manner, let alone arrogantly snatch medicinal herbs. A single fierce beast may not pose a significant threat, but once there are thousands, or even over 100,000, the terrifying scene would be enough to shake anyone's spirit. From a distance, several cultivators from the same fifth-grade sect stood in a daze, staring at the scene as if frozen, unable to say a word. This group of 7 had entered the primitive continent with great caution, fearing the attraction of too many fierce beasts. Naturally, they had not gathered many medicinal herbs. Now, witnessing the black ape's arrogant actions, they were left in shock. The black ape sprinted swiftly, leaping with both feet, crossing several hundred meters, and landing on the peak of a mountain. The peak was sharp, resembling a sword, yet the black ape moved with remarkable agility, arriving at the top. He bent down, his right hand reaching for a flower growing in the mist-like fog behind the peak. He immediately plucked a few of the mist flowers. At that moment, a sharp shriek came from the sky, and a 50-meter-long, eagle-shaped fifth-grade fierce beast broke through the fog, charging directly toward the bent-over black ape. Its speed was so fast that in the blink of an eye, it was less than 100 meters away. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, as if he hadn't seen it. The black ape, however, narrowed its eyes, and with a swift motion, its left hand grabbed the top of the mountain. Swinging forward, the enormous body spun like a pendulum around the peak, and its thick right leg swept out, immediately colliding with the black eagle. With a loud crash, the black eagle screeched in pain, blood splattering as it retreated. The black ape used the force of the impact to leap again, not entangling itself in the fight, but instead running further away. The beasts chasing behind it were multiplying. Shi Luoxing sat cross-legged in a dark valley, his face pale, with blood still staining the corner of his mouth. His black hair was disheveled, and he looked utterly disheveled. The eerie wails of ghosts echoed from all directions, alternating with the sound of distant, rapid thuds. Soon, staggering figures appeared ahead, and one of them coughed up blood just 3 meters from Shi Luoxing. "Master, the third brother is dead. We can't escape." The 4 were young, their white robes stained with blood. Shi Luoxing remained silent, keeping his eyes shut, but a look of sorrow crossed his face. The valley where his disciples had taken refuge was thick with mist. The air was filled with the souls of the dead, emitting sharp, screeching cries. Outside the valley, 8 enormous skulls floated, surrounded by green lightning, connected together to form a formation. The formation was peculiar, drawing on the souls of countless dead from the primitive continent, condensing them into a tangible force that fused with the formation, becoming a deadly divine technique. These souls could not be refined into pills. For alchemy, beast souls were required, not the souls of the dead. The dead souls were often born from the resentments of humans or beasts in their final moments, blending with the world's energy, refusing to dissipate. Atop one of the giant skulls sat an old woman. Her skin was dry and wrinkled, her figure a mere skeleton, her expression ghastly, resembling a vengeful spirit. If a mortal were to see her, they would surely be terrified to death. Her eyes flickered with a ghostly light, exuding an ominous aura. "Sure, Taoist, your 19 disciples are now reduced to 4. Why continue to sacrifice their lives? If you hand over that item, I will leave immediately," came a cold voice echoing through the valley, clearly reaching the ears of the 5 inside. The 4 young cultivators looked pale, silently glancing at their master. "Shi Luoxing, for an external object, losing your life is not worth it. Your cultivation is high, but you have been poisoned by my 5 poison sects poison. If you use your divine ability in this state, you will die instantly. Think carefully." Shi Luoxing's face twitched as he slowly opened his eyes, revealing a sharp gleam. However, his face remained bitter. As the eldest disciple of the 6th grade Huaqing sect, his cultivation had reached the mid-pure nirvana stage. This time, based on a lead, he had secretly entered the 3rd grade star domain with his disciples to find an item. He had initially thought the lead was unreliable, But to his surprise, it was true. Everything had been going smoothly, but after obtaining the item, their whereabouts were somehow exposed, and the item was also discovered. They had been surrounded and attacked, with heavy casualties among his disciples. Even he had been poisoned, and after fleeing to this valley, the poison began to act up, forcing him to hide in the valley to cure it. But before the poison could be dispelled, the poison crone from the Five Poisons sect, in the 6th grade star domain, had caught up and used her sect's formation to trap him in the valley. He had used secret methods to send out a distress signal, but it would take some time for his sect to rescue him. Sure, Taoist, even if the Huaqing sect sends people, it will be useless. As far as this old woman knows, apart from my Five Poisons sect, the Yuehun sect, the Daofa sect, the Dongxing sect, and the Motsung sect have all mobilized, and it's all for that item in your hands. The Jade Slip from the Skybreaker sect in the 8th grade star domain, and the legendary Nirvana Void Pill formula. Although he didn't fear the Violet Dao sect, without him holding the line at the Origin Reunion sect, given their current strength, the sect would surely be annihilated. In the past, Wang Lin would never have intervened in such a matter, but since he had already killed members of the Violet Dao sect, his involvement was now inevitable. Moreover, the clever female cultivator from the Origin Reunion sect, LV Yanfei, had respectfully granted him an official identity. Not to mention, a critical clue related to that fragment of Supreme Yin still required someone from the Violet Dao sect to decipher. Therefore, on this primordial continent, Wang Lin decided to act with unrestrained arrogance. Using the power of the newly subdued Black Ape Beast, he charged into one fierce beast gathering ground after another, forcefully seizing medicinal herbs. He allowed the beast hordes behind him to give chase as they pleased. Truth be told, even Wang Lin hadn't expected how exceptionally adept the Black Ape was at snatching herbs. It was even quite skilled at it. This level of skill was clearly not something acquired overnight. It was the result of long-term, repeated practice, refined into second nature. In the days that followed, Wang Lin didn't even need to point out targets. The Black Ape was extremely familiar with the primordial continent, often leading Wang Lin at lightning speed into these locations, grabbing the herbs, and bolting without a backward glance. Each time they succeeded, the Black Ape would let out an excited roar, as if it found great satisfaction in this act. What made Wang Lin chuckle wryly was the growing suspicion that this Black Ape was actually infamous among the fierce beasts of the continent. It was remarkably practiced at evading pursuit, as though it had done this many times before. Normally, if a fierce beast was robbed of herbs once, it wouldn't pursue the thief relentlessly for several days, much less display such crazed hatred and fury. Wang Lin had a theory, especially since in some beast lairs, the herbs weren't even located at the mountain peaks, but hidden elsewhere, places that even Wang Lin had to use divine sense to locate, as the thick mist made them nearly impossible to spot with the naked eye. Yet the Black Ape didn't need that. It seemed to know precisely where the herbs were hidden, dashing in like a thunderbolt to snatch them and flee. It was as though it had once carefully scouted these spots, patiently awaiting a chance to strike. As the days of pillaging went on, the Black Ape clearly grew more attached to Wang Lin, occasionally casting glances at him, ones filled with a sense of camaraderie. These realizations reminded Wang Lin of the moment he had subdued the Black Ape. Even after revealing overwhelming power and injuring it, the creature had refused to yield, eyes brimming with hatred and defiance. Only when faced with death had it finally submitted. Clearly, a creature so used to robbing other beasts of herbs would have mixed feelings when the same was done to it. Still, these pursuers are getting out of hand, Wang Lin muttered, sitting cross-legged on the Black Ape's shoulder. Glancing back, he saw a rising storm of dust, with constant roars and howls crashing against his ears. The mosquito beast had long been stashed away in the storage rift. The current situation was far too dangerous for it to appear. There were simply too many pursuers. What was worse, many of the fierce beasts chasing them hadn't even had their herbs stolen. Yet upon seeing the Black Ape along the way, they went berserk and joined the chase, launching themselves into the hunt. From afar, the scene behind them had become endless, a massive beast horde trailing a long, surging trail of dust that looked like waves rolling after the Black Ape. And the Black Ape? It seemed completely unfazed. It ran while deftly dodging various divine abilities, twisting its body with incredible agility. A few times, when forced into a tight spot, it would erupt in furious howls, as if cursing in frustration. A smile crept onto Wang Lin's face. He reached out with his right hand and made a grasping motion in the air. A storage rift immediately opened before him, from which he retrieved a piece of yellow rune paper. He slapped it onto the black ape's shoulder. In an instant, an earthen-colored storm burst forth from the black ape, shooting toward the sky. The creature trembled with joy, eyes gleaming with wild delight. Its speed exploded, and with a single leap, it left the beast horde far behind, surging ahead. But instead of fleeing, it suddenly turned and roared back at the pursuing beasts. Not only did it not continue running, it charged straight into them, fists and feet flying. It tore through their ranks like a storm, breaking open a path before bursting out from the other side. The air filled with its roars, driving the beasts into further frenzy. Just as the black ape was about to charge back in again, Wang Lin frowned and slapped its shoulder. The beast halted immediately, then resumed its escape. As time passed, the black ape, now significantly faster, continued its bandit-like rampage. Wherever it passed, if there were herbs it had previously scouted, it took them all without hesitation. Behind them, the pursuing beast horde only grew in size. The earth trembled with thunderous rumbling, and the sky was filled with churning mist. After scavenging a circle around the primordial continent, the black ape seemed unsatisfied. Leading the beast horde behind it, it began rushing towards the center of the continent. Wang Lin calculated the time and chose not to stop the black ape's actions. During his time on the primordial continent, Wang Lin gradually learned that there were higher-level fierce beasts located at the center of the continent. The black ape, moving at an extremely fast speed, charged into the central region. This area had few mountains, with valleys scattered among the undulating terrain. These valleys were often shrouded in mist, making it hard to see inside, but the eerie aura and oppressive pressure that emanated from them were unmistakable. As the black ape charged through each valley, Wang Lin's divine sense grew tense. These valleys were eerily quiet, without the usual roars of fierce beasts. After the black ape entered, everything became deathly silent. It was as though all the beasts here had vanished. It wasn't only Wang Lin who was puzzled. The black ape slowed down, staring ahead, unsure whether to proceed further. Wang Lin pondered for a moment. Gradually, the tremors of the earth grew stronger. The fierce beasts chasing them had already entered the central part of the continent and were heading straight for the black ape. Wang Lin raised his head, his eyes flashing with intensity. With a wave of his right hand, he pointed forward, and the black ape immediately began to run again. Under Wang Lin's mental control, the black ape slowed its pace, but the dense beast horde behind it grew closer, as if it was about to charge into the valleys under the black ape's lead. Time flew by quickly. As the black ape traversed through the valleys, the beast horde followed, flooding into them. Just then, Wang Lin's pupils constricted, and he suddenly leaped from his meditative position, staring ahead. At the same time, a chilling voice came slowly from the front. The Five Poison Sect is here to carry out business. Unrelated individuals, leave immediately. Huh. The eerie voice had just begun, but before it could continue, it was cut off by a surprised exclamation. Clearly, the speaker had seen the vast beast horde charging towards them, as endless as the ocean, coming from behind the giant ape. At that moment, Wang Lin's divine sense noticed 8 massive skulls outside a valley, absorbing endless dead souls and turning them into magical attacks surrounding the valley. Among them, Wang Lin also saw a dry, elderly woman standing on top of one of the skulls. Her pupils contracted as she noticed the star mist swirling around, preventing her from clearly seeing the distance. Her divine sense could not reach too far either, but the tremors from the ground were gradually becoming more pronounced. Soon, her divine sense picked up the howling beast horde approaching. At this moment, she couldn't help but inhale sharply. However, with her cultivation at this level, her mind was incredibly sharp. After spotting the black ape, she quickly deduced that the vast number of fierce beasts were chasing after the black ape and the white-haired cultivator on its shoulder. A murderous glint flashed in her eyes. She immediately understood that this was no coincidence. She considered the possibility that if not for the rescue from Huaqing sect, it might be the arrival of other sixth-stage sect cultivators. That was fast. The elderly woman took a step forward, her body turning into a blur as she rushed towards the black ape. As she moved, a poisonous mist began to spread around her. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He quickly realized he had likely stumbled into a conflict. Clearly, the 8 skulls were forming an array meant to trap and kill anyone or any beast within the valley. There was no time for further explanation. The old woman moved too fast, and the poisonous wind howled, carrying a murderous intent. Wang Lin leaped from the black ape's shoulder and issued a mental command. Without a word, the black ape changed direction, circling around to charge at the 8 skulls in the valley. At the same time, Wang Lin made a hand gesture and pointed forward. Suddenly, a gust of black wind howled out, transforming into several black dragons roaring and sweeping through the air, charging towards the incoming elderly woman. The woman's cultivation was similar to Song Wuda's, both being at the mid-pure nirvana stage. However, her poison-based attacks were extremely powerful, surpassing even Song Wuda in strength. As the black wind neared, she immediately formed hand seals and exhaled 3 breaths of air. The first breath transformed into a crimson mist that spread violently. When it collided with the black dragon wind, an earth-shattering explosion erupted. The second breath became a stream of black water that rained down, piercing the red mist and heading straight for Wang Lin. Every drop of this black water contained a unique poison capable of instantly rotting flesh into blood if it touched the body. The third breath shimmered with 7 colors and instantly transformed into a towering 100-foot statue. Please, Venom King, manifest. Venom Spirit Seal. The elderly woman's expression twisted with rage as she summoned her peak-level divine ability. The Venom King statue's eyes glowed with a ghostly light, shooting out like solid beams, intercrossing before coalescing into a black seal. As soon as the seal appeared, it immediately shot towards Wang Lin. If it struck him, not only would his body turn to blood, but his primordial soul would also be instantly poisoned to death. The old woman was exceedingly venomous. In order to kill the white-haired youth in front of her, she swallowed the Jade Slip and the Void Nirvana Pill formula, unleashing her most powerful divine ability. Even then, she feared Wang Lin might evade her attack, so she flicked her sleeve and a small snake, no thicker than a finger, shot out like lightning. This snake was her life-bound spirit beast, black in color with small, coxcomb-like horns on its head. As soon as it appeared, a foul wind spread through the air. The 5 black dragons, formed from black wind, collided with the crimson mist that the poison crone had conjured with her first breath. The sound of explosions echoed, and the mist rolled and churned. The 5 black dragons roared and tore through the mist at a terrifying speed. They flashed out and rapidly converged, fusing together in the blink of an eye. The 5 black dragons merged swiftly, and in an instant, a powerful, oppressive aura began to spread out in all directions. It suddenly transformed into a black spear. This spear was not solid, faintly transparent, but its sharpness was enough to shake the heavens. The spear shot forward, ignoring the black rain and the Venom Spirit Seal, heading straight for the old woman. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, so fast it was almost incomprehensible. Just as the old woman's third breath was released, and the coxcomb-horned snake appeared with a flick of her sleeve, the black spear was already less than 30 feet away from her. A strong gust of cold wind caused the old woman's face to change dramatically. The wrinkled skin on her body began to bulge and ripple, and her pupils contracted as her figure quickly retreated. She couldn't continue to control her divine ability to attack Wang Lin in time. As she retreated, she formed a seal with her hands, and her skin immediately began to morph into patches of black scales. At this moment, she no longer resembled a cultivator, but a humanoid beast of terrible strength. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He was midair, and the first thing to approach his body was the mark formed from the statue-like gaze, which came at him with an eerie howling sound, closing in on his chest with unimaginable speed. At this moment, retreating was no longer an option, and Wang Lin had no intention to. Though the poison crone's cultivation was slightly higher than his, Her divine ability far surpassed that of Song Wuda. Her attacks were vicious, but Wang Lin had killed many cultivators at the mid-pure nirvana stage. In a narrow encounter, the brave prevail. Just as the venom seal neared his palm, Wang Lin raised his right hand, forming a palm strike and extending it forward. In a split second, the distance between the venom seal and his hand was less than 7 inches. At this moment, Wang Lin's left hand quickly rose and pressed 2 fingers against the back of his right palm. With lightning speed, he struck twice, and with each strike, the air roared as the vast heavenly and earthly energies surged in all directions, funneling into Wang Lin's fingertips and then into his right palm. Though this seemed slow, in reality, it was instantaneous. When the venom seal was mere inches from Wang Lin's palm, a deafening boom shook the entire primordial continent, and a shockwave radiated outward, sweeping across the surroundings. Under this shockwave, the black rain that the poison crone had summoned was dispersed, losing its potency and causing no harm to Wang Lin. The sound of the impact was even greater than thunder, with countless echoes reverberating across the land. Even Wang Lin felt his ears ringing, and his body involuntarily took a few steps back. The venom seal trembled, cracks appearing all over its surface. With a loud bang, it shattered and was sucked back toward the illusory statue's chest by the overwhelming energy released from Wang Lin's palm. Suddenly, a black handprint appeared on the chest of the statue, with cracks extending from it across the entire statue. In an instant, the statue split into pieces. As Wang Lin took a few steps back, the coxcomb-horned snake broke through the shockwave and rushed straight at him, hissing loudly and releasing a venomous aura. Wang Lin's expression darkened. As he retreated, he reached out and a storage rift appeared. A flash of silver light revealed the silver-clad female corpse stepping out. Without needing a command, the corpse rushed toward the snake. Wang Lin dodged the conflict between the silver-clad corpse and the snake, and instead charged directly toward the poison crone. At this moment, the poison crone's expression changed drastically. She continued retreating, trying to evade the pursuit of the black spear. But the spear was like a bone deeply embedded in her, its speed increasing as it sent faint sounds of space being torn apart. Seeing Wang Lin walk out of her lethal strike, her expression grew even darker. She bit her tongue, preparing to spit blood and launch another venomous attack. However, in that instant, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he raised his right hand and pointed forward. Freeze! Countless invisible threads materialized in the air, instantly wrapping around the poison crone. With a single word, her body trembled violently, as though bound by an unbreakable force. Wisps of greenish smoke drifted from her mouth as she screamed in agony. The venomous blood she had intended to spit out was instead forced down her throat and into her stomach. That blood, laced with deadly poison, would have posed no threat under normal circumstances. But at the exact moment she was about to unleash her divine ability, she was interrupted, her spell broken, and a binding technique sealed her body. The poison turned inward, backfiring. Amid the screams, her body began to rot in large patches. Just then, the black spear roared into view, driving straight through the poison crone's chest. But instead of pulling back, it exploded within her with a thunderous boom. Her shrieks ceased instantly. Her body collapsed into a pool of blood. Her essence spirit, weakened and panicked, tried to flee, but with a sweep of Wang Lin's sleeve, it was captured. Though the battle had lasted but a brief moment, its danger left Wang Lin still shaken. The poison crone's venom arts were deadly enough to give her the upper hand against those of the same realm. Even cultivators beyond her level could fall to her poisons if caught off guard. Killing was routine for Wang Lin, but this time felt oddly senseless. He hadn't even learned the old woman's name. Had she not pressed him relentlessly and struck with the clear intent to kill, he wouldn't have taken her life without cause. Meanwhile, the little snake that had been entangled in battle with the silver-robed woman began to tremble the instant the old woman's essence spirit was seized. Its vicious aura faded, and its strength rapidly waned until it was finally subdued by the silver-robed woman. At that moment, the black ape had already bypassed the battlefield, leaping over the valley sealed by the 8 skull talismans. Behind it, a massive beast horde thundered in pursuit, charging directly into the valley. There were simply too many of these fierce beasts. Without the poison crone's divine sense to control the 8 skulls, the formation began to falter. The connecting lightning arcs between them cracked and crumbled. Wang Lin cast a distant glance at the black ape. The creature understood and immediately turned to continue its escape. The ground trembled violently as wave after wave of beasts trampled through the valley, continuing the chase. A few beasts tried to turn toward Wang Lin, but with a flick of his wide sleeve, each one collapsed and died instantly. Before long, the area was cleared of all beasts, every last one lured away by the black ape. In the distance, a billowing cloud of dust rolled across the terrain, vanishing into the mist. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, focusing on the 8 increasingly unstable skull talismans, which looked ready to shatter. He stepped forward and approached one of them, forming a hand seal and pressing upward. The skull trembled, its ghostly glow fading. It shrank down to the size of a fist and hovered motionless in midair as a gray skull. Repeating the process, Wang Lin sealed all 8 skulls. Clearly, these were components of a formation. Rather than take them immediately, he chose to seal them, uncertain of what might still lie within the valley, especially with his divine sense unable to penetrate the Yin mist. He cautiously stepped into the valley. With just a single thought, he could unseal the skulls, restoring the encirclement. The valley was not large. Upon entering, Wang Lin's eyes quickly fell on a rotting corpse. Its flesh decayed beyond recognition, though its male form was still apparent. A rancid stench emanated from the body, thick and foul. Frowning, Wang Lin moved forward, reaching the valley's center. He extended his divine sense slowly and saw, 100 feet ahead, a seated figure surrounded by 4 rotting corpses, each dead from poison. "Thank you for saving my life," came a weak voice from the seated man. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he walked slowly forward. As he neared, the scene became clear. The 4 corpses were all severely decomposed, eyes dull and lifeless, their faces frozen in a final moment of confusion. The same foul stench radiated from each of them. The seated man was a pale-faced, middle-aged cultivator, completely drained of blood. A faint black line was etched into his brow. Even his essence spirit hovered on the brink of death. It was clear he had been poisoned far too deeply. And this poison was no ordinary toxin, but an exceptionally lethal one. Late pure nirvana stage, Wang Lin noted, his eyes flashing. A poison capable of killing a late pure nirvana cultivator could rival even the infamous ecstasy and agony poison. "You came for the jade slip and the alchemy prescription," the man rasped, his tone bitter and pleading. "I don't know which sect you belong to, but I know you'll take them regardless. I have no strength to resist. I'll give them to you, just let me die quickly. Don't leave me to suffer under this 1,000 violet thread poison." Wang Lin remained silent, glancing down at the 4 corpses, then back at the man, finally giving a small nod. "These 4 were my disciples," the man said, grief welling in his eyes. "They died shielding me, all victims of the 5 poisons sect's poison crone. If not for the events of these recent days, each of them might have become pillars of our sect. With the poison flaring up in my body, I can't circulate my primordial energy. Lend me a thread of your power to open my storage dimension. I'll retrieve the jade slip and alchemy prescription for you. Once you've taken them, grant me a swift death. All this misery, all for things outside the self, and I've even dragged my disciples down with me." The bitterness on the middle-aged man's face deepened. Wang Lin didn't say a word. He raised his right hand and pressed forward. A surge of primordial energy surged out, steadily approaching the man's body. But just as it reached within 3 inches of him, the energy suddenly shifted. In the very instant before it landed, the middle-aged man abruptly looked up, his expression contorting into a savage grimace. A wave of destructive aura flared within him, on the verge of erupting. But Wang Lin's expression remained icy. As he released the energy, he grasped the air with his right hand. Instantly, a storage rift appeared. A black iron sword manifested in his grip and swept forward. The sword light howled as it slashed out. The moment before the man could self-detonate, his body shuddered. A red gash appeared across his neck, blood spraying forth. Not only did his body die in an instant, but even his weakened essence spirit was extinguished. His eyes remained open, staring deathly at Wang Lin. His head fell off and rolled several feet across the ground, its dim eyes still locked in a sinister glare. His ploy before death was crude, tempting enough for those who knew the value of the jade slip and prescription. But Wang Lin knew none of that. More importantly, the first corpse Wang Lin had seen upon entering the valley, and the four he saw after, though all appeared to have died from rotting flesh due to poison, were subtly different. Cautious by nature, Wang Lin noticed it. The first corpse had truly died from poison. The other four, however, had clearly been killed before their flesh decayed from poison. More tellingly, the way their bodies were arranged triggered Wang Lin's suspicion. Those four had likely been killed by this middle-aged man, though whether they were truly his disciples, as he claimed, or actually disciples of the poison crone from the Five Poisons sect, was unclear. In any case, Wang Lin didn't care to unravel the full cause and effect. He only knew one thing. The man had lied about losing his primordial energy. A man still scheming even at death's door must be hiding something. For such a man, Wang Lin didn't hesitate. He chose execution. You were going to die either way. You just died a few breaths earlier. He glanced at the headless body, now soaked in blood. Within moments, the flesh began to rot, his garments dissolving into shreds. The jade slip and the alchemy prescription. A flicker of thought crossed Wang Lin's eyes. The poison crone had cornered this man. For those very items, no doubt. What kind of jade slip and prescription could provoke a life-or-death struggle between pure nirvana cultivators? Enough for a mid-pure nirvana cultivator to dare trap and kill one in the late stage. This man had originally planned to self-detonate, ensuring his storage dimension vanished with him. But if one possessed sufficient cultivation, it wasn't impossible to forcibly open the dimension post-mortem. Retrieving the contents wouldn't be too difficult either. And based on what he'd just said, he had clearly mistaken Wang Lin for someone from a sect. This whole struggle over the jade slip and prescription might very well have been a sect-on-sect confrontation. He had said his disciples were poisoned by the poison crone of the Five Poisons sect. That old woman Wang Lin had slain earlier must have been her. And that woman, upon seeing Wang Lin, had immediately launched a lethal strike. Clearly she had also assumed he belonged to another sect. Most importantly, before attacking, the poison crone had said, "You arrived quickly." Wang Lin's pupils narrowed as he suddenly looked toward the sky. Could it be that cultivators from multiple sects are already en route to this place? If that's true, and the matter has attracted sect-level involvement, then the value of this jade slip and prescription must be extraordinary. Wang Lin took a deep breath, eyes gleaming. If my analysis is even 70% accurate, then this middle-aged man must have held those items in the highest regard. If he knew the storage dimension could be accessed after death, he likely didn't store them inside. Wang Lin lowered his head, scanning the valley until his gaze locked onto the skeletal remains of the four disciples. His eyes gradually sharpened. If I were him, facing such a situation, would I still place them in the storage dimension? Or would I hide them elsewhere? Wang Lin fell silent and closed his eyes, imagining himself in the man's position. Moments later, he snapped his eyes open, a strange light flickering within. His divine sense swept across the four skeletons, but found nothing. Unwilling to give up, a flicker of flame burst in his left eye. Fire surged forth and engulfed the four corpses. The sound of crackling flames echoed through the quiet valley. The skeletons, laced with deadly poison, glimmered faintly under the firelight before finally crumbling into ashen remnants. However, within the ashen remnants, a jade slip and a palm-sized beast bone fragment appeared. A flash of excitement flickered in Wang Lin's eyes. He reached out with his right hand, and immediately, the jade slip and the fragment fell into his grasp. His divine sense first swept across the jade slip, and suddenly, his expression changed drastically. 8th tier, Skybreaker sect. Wang Lin took a deep breath to calm himself, then turned his gaze to the other object, the beast bone fragment. Upon seeing it, even with Wang Lin's composure, his heart started pounding wildly in his chest. His eyes filled with disbelief as he stared at the beast bone fragment in his hand, unable to speak for a long time. Nirvana. Nirvana Void Pill. Though Wang Lin didn't fully understand what the Nirvana Void pill was, he knew the significance of the words Nirvana and Void for cultivators of great divine ability. What shocked him even more was a line inscribed on the pill formula. It struck his heart like a bell, making Wang Lin grip the beast bone fragment tightly. His eyes flared with an intense, murderous flame. At that moment, anyone who tried to take this fragment from him would face Wang Lin's frenzied retaliation. Take this pill, and there is a 10% chance to stabilize the origin and step into the third step of cultivation. Take this pill, and there is a 50% chance to survive a heavenly decay tribulation. Take this pill, and there is an 80% chance to enter the divine Genesis realm. After a long while, Wang Lin's expression returned to normal. He stared at the beast bone fragment in his hand, and without hesitation, he immediately stored it along with the jade slip. There was no time to carefully inspect it. Wang Lin was now certain. This item's value was enough to trigger a catastrophic event in the cultivation world. It was clear that the news of this pill formula hadn't spread too far yet, but as the competition intensified, it would inevitably shock the entire Cloud Sea star domain. It had been a long time since Wang Lin had felt his mouth dry. He licked his lips and carefully erased all traces of his presence in the valley. He even took away the middle-aged man's and another skeleton's remains. Once he was sure no clues were left behind, Wang Lin transformed into a streak of light and flew out of the valley. With a wave of his right hand, he was about to collect the 8 skulls, but after a brief hesitation, he decisively pointed to the void with his right hand. One of the skulls immediately exploded, scattering into countless fragments that fell inside and outside the valley. His eyes flickered as Wang Lin rapidly activated his divine sense, collecting the remaining 7 skulls. After a moment of contemplation, he took out the skeleton of the disciple who had died from poisoning and placed it back in its original spot. He then meticulously cleaned up the shattered skull fragments around the valley, leaving just one in a very hidden location. After finishing all of this, Wang Lin took a deep breath and stored the silver-robed woman's corpse and the other 7 skulls. Like a streak of light, he shot off into the distance, chasing after the black ape. I've captured the poison crone's soul. She cannot die. As long as she stays alive, no one will know that the incident today was done by an outsider. They will think the poison crone took the pill formula for herself and hid away. After all, there was also a fragment of a magical artifact in this valley, as well as the remains of the poisoned disciple. Time was tight, and Wang Lin couldn't afford to linger for too long. He couldn't afford to take any chances. At this moment, he was no longer interested in gathering medicinal herbs. With one step, he disappeared, using the art of shrinking the ground to an inch, and appeared next to the black ape, which was running with the fierce beasts. Upon seeing Wang Lin, the black ape immediately became excited, roaring as it pointed to a nearby mountain peak, clearly indicating that there were more medicinal herbs there. Wang Lin paid no attention to the ape's gestures. He waved his right hand and removed the yellow rune paper from the black ape. Suddenly, he stored the massive black ape into his storage dimension. With a swift motion, he transformed into a streak of light, shooting into the sky, tearing through the mist. He placed the yellow rune paper on himself, and his speed increased exponentially. Not satisfied, he took out another beast hide speed talisman and affixed it to himself. Now, Wang Lin's speed reached its peak. In the blink of an eye, he pierced through the star mist and soared far beyond the primordial continent, stepping into the starry sky. Even at this moment, his heart was still pounding, and he felt a surreal sensation. Everything that had happened on the primordial continent and everything he had gained still felt incredibly unreal. Suppressing his excitement, Wang Lin knew full well that if the news of this pill formula in his possession leaked, he would face endless pursuit across the entire Cloud Sea, even in the rain and thunder realms. This pill formula was enough to drive cultivators insane, especially those ancient monsters who had been in seclusion for a long time, rarely leaving their retreat, and had reached the perfect late shattered nirvana stage, or those who were in the midst of a heavenly decay tribulation. For them, this pill formula was worth any price. I cannot let anyone know I have this. Inside the 5th-tier star domain, Wang Lin increased his speed, streaking through the sky. He didn't dare spread out his divine sense. He had a vague feeling that many cultivators in this star domain were heading towards the primordial continent. If he were to encounter his hurried self on the way, it might raise suspicions. Though the doubts wouldn't be major, once these people reached the primordial continent and discovered the clues, they would undoubtedly focus on those who had been suspicious before. The more one faces a major event, the more secretive one is, the more they need calm and composure. After covering some distance, Wang Lin summoned the black ape and sat cross-legged on its shoulder. He calmed his mind and instructed the black ape to fly toward the Moro continent, where the Guiyuan sect was located. It would take several days to reach the Moro continent from here. Despite Wang Lin's urgency to leave, his expression remained as calm as ever, as if nothing had happened on the primordial continent. Sitting on the black ape's back, he appeared to be a true cultivator from the Cloud Sea star domain. Several hours later, Wang Lin was far away from the primordial continent. In the vicinity, there were other regions that resembled the primordial continent, making it difficult to determine exactly where Wang Lin had come from. At that moment, Wang Lin's calm eyes suddenly contracted, but quickly returned to normal. In the distance, long rainbows howled, growing ever closer.